you walk in ginger ale with it? I don't know where you're going. Is it easier to go outside or to go upstairs?
Whomever that is, can you please mute your microphone? Thank you. 1 minute. Looks like we can begin. So hello everyone. My name is Lynette Clement. I am the program director for the Human Capital Development Program as well as the Organizational Leadership Program. So thank you for your interest in learning more about the importance of talent development in the workforce. It is offered through LaSalle University's Master of Science in Human Capital Development Program as well as the Organizational Leadership Program. So again, thank you for your interest in joining us today. We will be recording this session and providing it to everyone at the end of today's session. So both organizational leadership as well as the Human Capital Development Program are fully online programs that foster the importance of skill development. So you can learn more about these programs by contacting our admissions office at 215-951-1100. Or you can contact me after today's session. So our guest speaker for today is Margaret Uhrich, the Managing Director of Learning and Strategic HR at M.E.A. She founded a commercial construction company that ranked at the top 10 fastest growing private firms by the Philadelphia Business Journal. Margaret has done several speaking engagements and is also a graduate from LaSalle University's Instructional Technology Management Program. She brings over 24 years of experience in leadership, entrepreneurship, coaching, facilitation, training, and development in the industries of healthcare, construction, pharma, technology, as well as education. At the end of today's session, we will have time for questions and answers, but during the session, you can utilize the chat feature that you may see at the bottom of your screen. So if you want to, you can type in the chat box so that you can type in any questions that you may have, or so you can respond to any questions that is asked during the session. For those of you who complete this webinar today, you will also receive 1.5 HRCI recertification credits. So the credit information will be sent to you via the email that you registered with, and you have to complete today's session in order to get that email. So now is the time to mute your microphone during the presentation. So whoever that is, please mute your microphone so there is no distractions during the webinar. Now is the time to mute your microphones or your telephones based on however you are viewing the presentation today, because we don't want any background noise or any distractions during the presentation. So thank you. So I am now going to turn over the presentation to our guest speaker, Margaret Uhrich. Again, you can utilize the chat feature at the bottom of your screen during the session. Sometimes it might be on the side or the bottom of your screen. Thank you, Margaret.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lynette. And hi, everyone. Welcome to today's session, and thank you for joining us. So let's see, just make sure I can. So let me just tell you a little bit about M.E.A., and then I'll give you a little bit more about my background and let you know really why I'm here speaking with you today. But for those of you who are not familiar with M.E.A., or formerly known as the Mid-Atlantic Employers Association, we are an organization that has been in business over 100 years. I did just recently join the organization last July, so I'm going on a year now. And but we are the HR department essentially for small to mid-sized businesses. So the services that we offer, you can see, are listed here on the slide. We have recruiting and part-time staffing. We have the training and development, which is what I oversee. We have legal and compliance services, compensation and engagement services, The HR services also come under my area of responsibility. And then we are a partner with the Predictive Index tool. So imagine being a small business owner or mid-sized company where you don't have a dedicated HR person, or you have one, maybe two people doing the job, or ideally you could have 3, 4, or 5 people in that role. We become like an outside partner then for that organization to help them with all areas of HR that they're not able to take care of themselves. So that's a little bit just about M.E.A. and a little bit about me. As Lynette said, I am a graduate of LaSalle's Instructional Technology Management Program. I am a business owner, a small business owner. I've been a consultant, a trainer, I'm a certified coach. I've had the opportunity to do a lot in my career. And what's awesome now is in my role here at M.E.A. as the Managing Director of Learning and Strategic HR, I get to pull it all together. So now as I'm working with and consulting with our small and mid-sized business owners or HR directors, I understand their business and I understand their needs. So it's really, for me, the ideal role. And it's the experience that I've gained over all of these years, and in particular within this last year of working with business owners around this very topic of talent development, that's what I'm bringing to you today now. So I have designed this to be interactive. I would love to hear from you via the chat. So please do so at any time throughout this presentation. But right now, I did just want to ask, if you are, I understand I may have some students on the line as well, so if you're not working currently in an organization, you can answer this just from your experience, from what you've been learning. But how important would you say is the need to improve learning and development within your organization? And let's answer this on a scale of 1 to 10, right? With 10 being, it's extremely important, and 1 being, yeah, it's really not important at all for us right now. So give that some thought for you within your organization or within the organizations that you're learning about. How important would you say is the need to improve learning and development? 10 being extremely important, 1 being not really a big deal at all for us. Go ahead and put your thoughts in chat for me. All right, Grace, thanks for starting us off there. And if you're not sure where to open up the chat panel, it should be, Lynette, as you said, right at the bottom of their screen. They should be able to hover over it and have that pop up for them.
Yeah, so we do have some coming in. So Julie replied, learning and development is critical at our organization, give it a 10. Someone else named Julie replied, said about a 7. Jet replied about a 5. Patterson replied about an 8. Elizabeth replied about 6 or 7. Giovanni replied about 7. A Louis replied about 7. And someone, Akuri M replied 10. So it looks like it's a private. Somebody's put it in private. So let me see if I can share a file and
and I'm not seeing
it
those
says
chat
everyone.
messages.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure how they're coming through. I've only saw the one from Grace, so thanks for that. But it sounds like, based on what Lynette just read off to me, that everyone's right there pretty much saying, hey, if it's not the most important thing going on for us right now, it's pretty darn important. All right, so next question. How ready are you and your organization to address this? So if improving your learning and development is a big deal, which many of you indicated it was, how ready are you to address it? What do you think? Again, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being, yep, I'm ready, bring it on, we've got this, and 1 being, I have no idea even how to get started. What do you think? And if you could send your messages out to everyone, that would be awesome. That way I will see your responses and Lynette won't have to call them out.
Right, because most of you reply privately, but if you reply to everyone, everyone will be able to see.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Julie. You're saying you're at a 6. You're undergoing a lot of change. All right. Hey, Louie's at a 6. Oh, Elizabeth, awesome. All right, you've got a lot going on. Perfect. 9, that's awesome. Yeah, so Pattersall L, not, it's hard when I don't have your full names here, but that's great to hear, right? You've got the ball rolling now. It's just keeping that momentum, and that is so, so true. Because it's not a sprint here. Like, doing this isn't something that happens overnight. So it takes time and it takes effort and it takes time. All right, KJ, you're at about a 3. All right, awesome. Well, in a recent poll done by, it was a Deloitte Global Human Capital Trends report done this year, what they found that was 86% of the companies said it was really a big deal for them. And out of those 86, only 10% felt like they were ready to address it. So you guys are actually beating the average there with how you responded, right? 86% said it was a really, really big deal, but only 10% were even in a position to go ahead and do anything about it. So let's talk about why we want to be doing it. And feel free, if you want to add your thoughts into chat, those of you who are currently doing something, who have that work that is already underway, or who have got the ball rolling, feel free to put in kind of what's motivating your organization. I'm just going to talk about generally speaking, and I bet they're probably pretty much going to line up. But there's a lot of reasons why we want to be looking at developing our talent. Now, one of the issues is, right, when you look at all the things, you know, when a CEO or the head of a company looks at his organization, there's so many different ways that he or she can go about making changes within that organization. Excuse me. They can look at product development. They can look at doing something with their sales, their marketing, refocusing customer service. But figuring out exactly where to start and what to prioritize is often very difficult. And those of you on the line probably get this when I say that often employee development really does fall at the bottom of that list, which is why it's hard to get it rolling and why it's hard to keep it going. The other issue, and I just alluded to this a moment ago, is this is not a short-term fix. So it's often hard also for CEOs or even just leaders of small companies to look at putting an investment into talent development, because that's a long-term investment. They're not going to see that short-term gain. So the idea of putting something towards a long-term goal and a long-term return, instead of putting it towards a potential short-term return is really difficult. And again, why often talent development doesn't get the attention that it needs. But really, that's the wrong lens that we want to be looking at this through. Your people, right, are your company. And the sooner that we realize that as organizations, I think that the easier it'll be for us to start saying, you know what, talent development needs to be a big deal. Right? Our employees want to feel that we care about them and that we're committed to supporting their professional advancement and even their personal growth. And we'll look at that in a little bit. How many millennials do I have on the line here? I don't know, are you able to raise your hand or give me a green check? Give me a green check if you're a millennial. All right, looking like all right, there's 2, 3. So I want to thank the millennial generation because I really believe that, well, I believe 2 things. I believe, one, we all want to be developed as employees, as people. Generally speaking, we all care about development, and there have been surveys done that have proven that. I think what the millennial generation has done for us is they've said, look, we want it, we need it, and we're going to make an issue about it, right? If we don't have it within our organization where we currently are, we're very likely going to go to an organization that is going to develop us. So it's really put us in a position where, as organizations, we do need to think about what we're going to do if we want to retain our workforce. And we'll see that also in a little bit. So I just want to take a moment, read through the chat that we have here. Oh, absolutely, Julie, right? Keeping up the skills is a huge reason for talent development. Yep, Leah, that's perfect as well, and we're going to touch on that. Yeah, and that's just it. And as Lynette had said, right, things are also changing so rapidly that we cannot rely on the education that we got in school. We cannot rely on the education that we even provided 5 years ago to our employees, because things are always changing and we need to maintain the skills of our employees. So high level, and I think you guys probably all know this and you've alluded to it in chat, right? One of the reasons you want to be addressing talent development is increased loyalty, right? Your employees, if they feel that you care about them, and that's exactly what you're communicating by developing them, is that you do care about them. they will have increased loyalty towards your organization. It also improves employee performance. That's kind of the obvious one, right? If you help them to upskill, if you give them the training that's going to allow them to learn new things or learn how to do what they're currently doing better, it's just going to improve their performance. And then, excuse me, their overall satisfaction and morale, which is part of that increased loyalty as well. But they're just going to feel better, they're going to be happier, and that's going to also indirectly impact their performance. It's going to impact your culture. It's just all around a good thing. Okay. Any questions or comments so far? If so, feel free to just put them in chat, and I'll keep an eye on the chat as we go here. So here's some other reasons why, maybe not so obvious, but other reasons why we want to be thinking about employee development or talent development within our organization. First of all, we do want to look at, right, addressing whatever weaknesses that may exist. So this is probably one of those things that's better for, like when you think about it as a manager looking at his staff and how he or she wants to develop his staff. But every employee is going to have some sort of weakness with regards to their skills. And having some type of training program in place, having some type of vehicle for developing them allows them or gives them the opportunity to strengthen those skills that they need in order to be able to improve. This helps them just to overall, right, eliminate those weak links as much as possible within your organization. So just the ability to identify, right, where there may be some weaknesses, and then having, again, like I said, that vehicle to be able to address those weaknesses and to raise them up. I mean, everyone's always going to have strengths and weaknesses, but if we can address them to at least get them to the point where they don't create problems for the organization, that's a good thing. We also want to be developing our strengths, always. The other reason why we want a talent development program is to create some consistency. So having a robust training and development program can ensure that employees have that consistent experience and background knowledge. And as you can imagine, this is really important when you think about your policies and your procedures. And this consistency really has a big part to play in your onboarding when you think about that. So onboarding is a great opportunity to start developing your employees right away as you bring them into your company. What are the things that you want them to know about your organization? And I should say, what are the things that you need them to know about how things work within your organization? So having that talent development program that is thought through, that is developed as a program, allows you to create within your organization that consistent message where it needs to be consistent, right? And that's not going to be in all areas of talent and development, but like I said, with certain things, with policies, with procedures, with items related to your culture, you're going to want some of that consistency. So a formal talent development program will allow you to do that. You also have, right, the increased productivity and adherence to standards. So typically when training is offered within an organization, right, there's an increase in productivity. There can also be an increase in efficiency based on procedures that might have been trained on, or that an employee, based on a training they attended, was really just reminded of. So it's that great opportunity to also give a boost to your productivity levels. Innovation's a hot topic right now too. You hear a lot about design thinking and creative thinking and being innovative, and often, you know, they say that this is the key then for any new startup, right? They need to be innovative. So offering training, and depending on how you offer that training, can increase innovation within an organization. And when I talk about how you do it, so it's the topics that you offer, it's the ways in which you offer those topics. So having your employees train together as a team has one benefit. Having them train with people outside of their team, but maybe within the organization, has another benefit. Having them train with people outside of the organization, sending them outside of the company for training, to meet with others, to hear from other individuals how they're doing things, to have that peer learning take place where they get to see other ways also is really beneficial and can have that positive impact on innovation, right? It could spark an idea in an employee that they're then able to bring back to the organization and to share. Oops, sorry. So reduce turnover. That's kind of, to me, right, a huge one. And if you think about, it's almost a byproduct of all these other things. If you have an employee that is satisfied with their job, feels good about the role that they're doing, feels qualified in the role that they're doing, feels as though their manager cares about them because they constantly have development opportunities, right? They're not as likely to leave your organization as they would be if those things did not exist. So it has been proven to reduce turnover, which saves the company money in a really big way. So another huge benefit of having some type of talent development program in place. And then it can enhance your company reputation and profile. So there are, and I bet, in fact, let me just ask, in chat now, tell me some of the companies that you know out there that do a great job with employee development. There's a handful, I'm sure, that you'll come up with right away that are known for doing great training. Exactly, Disney, Vanguard, yep. Okay, SAS. Amazon, Deloitte, Zappos, absolutely. Anybody think of any others? There's a good bit out there. Gap Inc., yep. I mean, Wawa has Wawa University, which has a great reputation. So companies get known for this. As a result, people want to work at those companies. Makes it easier to recruit and then retain those good employees. Sorry, Leah, didn't mean to take that from you. So it's just another reason why you want to think about developing a talent and development program within your organization. I mean, these are too many benefits to start ignoring, right? So now that gets to, right, we've just looked at all the reasons, and they're probably pretty obvious, right? But when you line them all up, you're like, holy cow, right? Why isn't every company out there putting together some type of talent and development program? Because of all these reasons, why wouldn't you do it? Especially now in today's tight labor market, right? So that brings us to the question of what are the different ways that we can go about developing our employees? And there's a lot, right? So let me ask you, in your organizations or with what you've been learning, what are some different ways that you can create a talent and development program? Or what are the things you can leverage within your talent and development program? Put your thoughts in chat for me. Oh, a mentor is an awesome idea. Okay, so KJet, you are so similar to so many of the member companies that we have here at M.E.A. So absolutely understand how you're operating right now. So Julie, interesting. Education, experience, exposure is the model we are using. So Lynette, are individuals able to come off mute and to speak?
Yes, they can, but be mindful of whatever noises in their background will be picked.
Okay, then let me just ask, Julie, are you in a place where you would be able to come off mute and speak a little bit to what you just shared in chat? Julie, if so, you can just come off mute. If not, you can just let us know in chat, and that is fine. I know it's not the...
I think I hear her
okay.
now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah, so experience, exposure, education is a model that we're trying to roll out with corporate training currently. We are a retail chain. I work at Wawa. And
okay.
we're starting this primarily with our corporate audience. We have never ventured into corporate training, but the whole premise is to curate content that's relevant to skills. So we're in the process of skills development, provide education through Degreed, and then design, craft, or create opportunities for people to be exposed to different areas of the business and participate in sprint teams, and thereby get the experience they need to move to different departments and get a well-rounded experience so that they can move up and become the leaders that we need, future state.
So Julie, if I'm understanding, well, it does. Let me just clarify. So if I understood you correctly, you're curating content that already exists out there via the internet. So like Degreed, I believe you said, which is really kind of like a warehouse of all types of educational opportunities, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then you're looking to provide, so when you say experience, is that like on-the-job experience and exposure?
Correct. So we are also employing sprint teams to try to solve problems fast. So providing somebody an opportunity to join a sprint team for a new product development, or digital enhancement, or succession planning, or any of those types of sprints that are currently underway. We select high performers or people that have an interest, and they go into these sprints for 4 to 6 weeks, participate, and come out with a much better understanding of the scope of what it takes to make these changes. And hopefully a position comes up, they post for it, and they have the skills they need by participating in these sprints to get where they need to go.
Oh, that's awesome. What I love is that it's so focused on the very practical and, like I said, on the job training and the immersive, as opposed to really being pulled away from that traditional classroom type training.
Yes, it is completely different.
Okay, neat. So thank you for sharing your approach there. I think that was really interesting. So thanks, Julie. And I'm looking through the comments that everybody else, go ahead. Okay. Looking through the comments that everyone else shared, so thanks for that. Leah, thanks for your comments with your structured model, day 1 through 13. That's a long program, so kudos to you for creating something like that. I see you said it's a leader-led conversations, hands-on experience. That's awesome. So good. So here are a couple ways, and some of them you've already hit on, and we'll just review quickly. Obviously, one, you have professional training, right? And that's the good old, what we all know of. It includes that classroom training, the traditional. And well, I know Julie was saying what she's doing at Wawa is really moving away from that, and that's awesome. There's probably always still going to be some need to do that formal type of classroom training in some ways within your development program. But it's not the only way to go about it, as some of you have already shared in chat. So the other great opportunity, as someone mentioned here, is this coaching and mentoring. And coaching and mentoring programs can be set up in multiple ways. So we all have heard, I'm sure, that a lot of reasons why an employee leaves an organization is because of their manager. So a lot of what we do here at M.E.A. is really train our managers on how to be better managers, right? How to have those skills that they need. And one of those skills is really coaching skills. And it is most ideal if the employee is receiving the coaching and or mentoring from his direct manager. But we know the reality is that often managers don't have the time to do that. So a mentoring program can be set up in other ways. It can be with the manager, it can be with somebody else in the department, it can be with somebody else within the organization. I'm currently in a program where I'm a mentor for another individual, and it's through the professional organization that we both belong to. So that was another way to get some mentoring, not related to the organization doing it themselves, but so there are different ways to look at putting together a mentorship and or coaching program. It doesn't necessarily have to involve the manager. So let's see, who was it that said they get mentors? So the individual, and I'm not sure if I have a combination of first name and last name there, but you said you have a mentor. They give you a mentor so you can ask questions and shadow him or her. Who is that mentor? Is it a senior person within the organization? Are you able to answer that in chat?
I think that was someone with the last name Uhrich.
Just curious how they handle that. So if you can, just go ahead and put in chat, how is it that you're matched up with your mentor? I think that would be helpful to see. Excuse me. But really, something that's not difficult to do, doesn't really have to cost any money to develop. It just takes a little time to formalize a program and implement that program. It does typically, to be done well, require a little training of the individual that's going to be the mentor, and often helpful to set some expectations or guidelines for the mentee as well, so that each party knows what's expected of them and how they're going to work together. Because there is some need to be for accountability and that type of thing within this program for it to really be successful. All right, let's see. So you have a mentor who's a year or two. Okay, so who has experience in a similar type position? So that's awesome. Perfect. So something else to think about when you're looking at developing your talent and putting together a talent and development program is how can you implement coaching and mentoring as part of that program? And where would that fit? And what would it take to get that up and running? Like I said, typically not an expensive thing to do. Does require some thought. What would be your goals and your vision for it? And then training up those people that are going to have significant roles within the program. All right, so that's your second development option. Third would be, right, developing across teams or cross-department training. And I know we had somebody in here that indicated that their organization is doing that already. So this is a great opportunity to think about how do departments interact, and then how can, as a result of that interaction, they work together to develop each other. It doesn't typically happen organically. This is something that does have to be identified, thought about, looked for, and then capitalized on. So here's an excellent example of how this could work. So you have a department where you've got a customer service department, and they're getting information from your customers that say, you know what, we would like something specific changed on this particular product, right? So customer service takes it to the product development team, shares this insight with the product development team, right, these new features. The product development team starts working on the development of this new feature, invites the customer service representative or maybe some members from the customer service to come to some of the scrum meetings or the stand-up meetings during the development process to continue to provide input, right, that they know because they are the ones speaking directly to the customer. After the product is developed, it's now going to go back to the customer service folks to sell this product or to service this product. So before that happens, the development team trains the customer service folks on the new features, how to use them, what was done, all of that good stuff, so that they're educated on now this new feature. Seems pretty obvious that that would happen anyway, but it doesn't typically. And like I said, those are the things that they don't happen organically. So how can we work together, have that cross-department training? It just gives better insight. I mean, in that scenario I just shared, the person that benefits the most probably is your customer, which is a really good thing. But it also creates a better working relationship between the two teams. They have a better understanding of each other's role, what it takes to roll out a new product feature, and what it takes to deal with customers. So just a great opportunity to create, I think, better working relationships also within the organization when you've done that cross-department training, because it does create that greater level of understanding. Any good examples of how organizations are doing some of this cross-department training. If anybody wants to share in chat, I would love to see some of the examples of what you're doing. And I know we saw one person here had put something in, oh, Elizabeth, you said that you create development across geographies to broaden experiences in new markets. So if you can elaborate on that in chat, that would be awesome.
Sure, it might be easier to just take myself off mute if you can hear me.
Oh, perfect. No, sure, okay. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so in our business, we do have a lot of learning and development growth opportunities underway, from a formal learning platform perspective, but from an on-the-job training, our company is growing so rapidly from a global perspective that we really need people with on-the-job experience, within different markets. So whether it's having someone within country with a particular expertise, but then who needs commercial experience, we try to get them experience in, a more complex market like the U.S. with the healthcare system. So we put together individual development plans, typically for key talent. So we go through a talent review process where we identify key talent, and then from there we, create a development plan for them. I think the unfortunate part is it's just so difficult to keep up with. We want everyone to be able to experience that. So with the lack of a formal process, it really kind of is on the employee and the manager and the leadership within each respective country to take that upon themselves with the support of HR. But it would be nice to have something a little bit more formal.
Right. And are you creating then individual development plans? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. That is quite an undertaking, and that's an awesome goal. And ideally, it's the best place to go with this to meet really the needs of the company and the needs of your employees. But as you indicated, right, quite an undertaking.
Yeah, and I think it's probably not going to be sustainable going forward, but it's sort of like an interim while we're building these programs to have, more formally, it's okay and it works for now for key talent, but to be able to reach a broader audience in the future, it's not going to be sustainable.
So what is your thinking, that you'll go to kind of a development plan based on role?
It will be depending on the business. So I work in the commercial business. Our key focus area is the general manager population. So if we have key talent within the organization, the goal would be to have a GM. We've created a GM success profile. So basically, in order to become a GM or to identify pipeline talent within the organization, we look at the current talent pool that we have, and if they don't have certain experiences now, we want to make sure that they get there before the next role opens up, whether it be 18 to 24 months or so.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing, and I appreciate you coming off mute. That would have been a lot to type into.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Good. And so Kay-Jet, and I'm not sure what your formal name is, but your comment there in chat is spot on as well, right? Especially in smaller organizations, the cross-department training is just a vital necessity, just to make sure, because if there is an illness or extended leave for whatever reason, that you can keep things running. So Julie, can I ask you to come off mute and just tell me a little bit more about your comment there about development being hard to sustain?
Sure. So we have a formal development plan that all managers sit with their associates, put a development plan together. And you add elements from the 3 E's, right? Education, exposure, and experience. But they're very difficult in the day-to-day world to sustain. It really has to be top of mind all the time. And when you have a large group of employees, it's hard to customize plans that address critical skill gaps or skills that maybe somebody wants for future. And yeah, I think it's a struggle, at least from my perspective, to keep managers in that sort of mind frame, to keep pushing for development and creating opportunities, because in today's world, it's just so busy. Everybody is so busy, and just the day-to-day tasks of keeping the business running can be very consuming. So for me, I feel like it's just a little bit hard to keep focused on what's most important, which is people and people development.
You know, and that gets back to the statement I made at the beginning, and you're spot on. And there's so many priorities always for an organization, and there's usually limited dollars. And you want to get the return as quick as possible. And development is you know, it's like I said, a marathon. It's not a sprint that you're running here, and it is something that has to be established and then maintained and maintained and maintained and supported. And it is difficult. I think ideally too, it is hard for HR to do it across the whole company. And ideally, if we can have each manager looking at their staff, their employees, what their goals are for their, you know, for their department, and how their goals roll up into the larger company goals, and what needs and demands that creates, and then therefore, you know, what are the skills they need within their employees. That's the ideal, but as you indicated, it's really hard for managers also to be able to stay focused there when there are so many fires throughout the day that they're putting out as well. I think it's going to take us really keeping that focus on why do we want to be developing, and when it starts, you know, when the turnover issue gets to be greater and you start seeing the money that you're spending on turnover and recruiting new people and that type of thing, that might help to make the shift a little bit easier. It might help to make this all become more of a priority. But I hear you, and I agree. It's definitely a challenge, and it's something that has to be worked at all the time. So thank you for sharing. All right, a couple more things just to go over, a couple other options that we have for development. It's developing those soft skills, right, which is the next one. So a lot of the training that we do and that we think about are those real technical skills. But even for individual contributors, we want to be thinking about how can we develop their soft skills. From a management standpoint, this is a lot of what we do at M.E.A. It really would be, as I would say, developing their soft skills. So they're great technically. The managers that we see in the organizations that we work with for the most part, and they were great in their role as a technician, you know, as an individual contributor, and as a result, they get promoted up into a management job, and they're not given any of the management training. Managing is a skill, and learning how to do it, right, takes time, and it takes practice, and it takes some dedication. So developing the soft skills of both your, you know, of all of your employees and meeting them where they're at is really important and not something that should be overlooked. And, you know, when I talk about soft skills, it's those things that Dan Goleman has spent a lot of work on around emotional intelligence and all the work that he's done, right? It's self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, social skills. All those things really can help in many ways within your organization. Just developing your employee in those areas can have impacts on their personal and professional life. It can help to change and or maintain the culture of your organization to be something that you want it to be. So lots of reasons for why it's good not to ignore the soft skills. Unfortunately, the term soft skills often, right, has it seem like the less important type of skills that we need to be developing. But more and more, that's not the case. And in fact, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Sean Aker, the Harvard psychiatrist who wrote The Happiness Effect, but he did a study, and I say, how does it go? I think the question is, or what he determined is, when you look at IQ and EQ, right, and EQ are those skills that we're calling soft skills, he looked at what was more important in determining your success on the job. And 75% of your success on the job is really based on your EQ, right? Your emotional intelligence. It's these soft skills. Only 25% is based on your IQ. So when we think about where we want to be spending time developing our employees, developing the soft skills is really a great place, if you're not already doing it, to think about how you can bring some of that into your organization. And then another option, often that gets overlooked, is this idea of creating stretch assignments. And this, again, really falls back on the manager. And so, therefore, it does take time. But This is a great way to develop your staff and to get them ready to be able to take those new positions as they become available, right? Or to develop them to accept more and more responsibility within your department or within the organization. And when you think about stretch assignments, right, it's not about picking the most qualified person that you have in your department, right, for an assignment, but it's thinking about what's the right development assignment for the person in my department. So it's lining up where your employees at, where their interests are at, and then what the assignment is and how you can stretch them. And this goes, again, a long way towards them having feel like you care about them as a person, you care about their development personally and professionally. So it has that, the feeling of raising their morale, raising their satisfaction, raising their loyalty. Kate, I'm glad to hear you say that, right? It's easy to provide in a small company. That's probably because in a small company, everybody has an opportunity to do everything, which is one of the benefits, I think, of working in a small company. All right, and then the last opportunity we'll look at here, or of your options, is that of personal development. We've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but especially, again, the millennial generation, really want to see that within the organization where they're putting in a lot of time, a lot of hours out of their day, that they have an opportunity for personal development as well. And this is another area where if we just stop and do a little creative thinking as organizations, we can really do something to address this. And when I talk about personal development, it's their emotional balance, right? It's having your manager, again, just having conversations with your employees, asking them how they feel about work today, right? Or is there anything that you're struggling with? How can I support you better? It's having those types of conversations that has your employees feeling like you really do care. And if there is something that's not in balance, that is not correct, it's that opportunity for that employee to raise it up and maybe get some support with it if possible. So it's looking at, like I said, emotional balance. It's their intellectual growth, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be directly related to the tasks that they're doing, especially for the millennial generation and the digital coming into the workforce as well. How about just personal finance training? Or how to have healthier relationships? Again, some of it, those soft skills, how to manage debt, right? That's part of the personal finance. But some of those things that we know in schools they're not teaching any longer because they don't have time. And we know that people are struggling with it. We do engagement surveys here at M.E.A. And one of the things our CEO just shared it last night, we had our member appreciation dinner last night. And one of the things he's realized in doing some of these engagement surveys is if employers would just have meetings with their employees and ask, what are you struggling with? And once you get that information, then you have an opportunity to maybe do something about it. An example he shared last night was he had this one company had a large group of relatively recent college grads working for them, and they were all burdened with college debt. And they also, look, we would happily take a different type of healthcare plan. We would happily take less vacation days if you can do something to help us with our college debt. So this company, with this information, now had the opportunity to think creatively and say, yeah, is there something we can do here about that? So just thinking about, and looking at your employees and what are they struggling with, how can you help them, is a great opportunity. And then the last piece under personal development, which is an opportunity, is really physical health. And there's a lot of programs now through the health insurance companies and everything that give you the ability to offer programs to your employees that can be considered development programs. So you can leverage them within your program as well when you think about putting together something. So any questions or comments so far?
It looks like we have one from KJet, which I was responding in the type chat, but she says, if I'm understanding properly, it seems like there's an overlap between personal development and soft skills training. Is this correct, or am I missing something?
So, KJ, I think you're absolutely correct. And, personal development and soft skills training overlap in that I think if you train someone to raise their level of emotional intelligence, that their skills that can be used personally and professionally, that they have the benefits of having them have better interactions in work, better communications with the people they're working with, but also with all the relationships they have outside of work. Better relationships have you just feeling better overall, you know, so it can have the benefit of also having, I don't want to say better mental health, right, but just feeling generally better. I think there's definitely overlap there. Does that make sense? If not, feel free to, okay, perfect. All right, so I know we're getting close to ending, and so here's all these opportunities, and a lot of them you probably already know about, and it's probably why your head's already spinning, or why you're saying, right, it's difficult to go ahead and do this. So there are a lot of options for companies to consider, which means there's a lot of things to think about. And I just want to share how we approach it here at M.E.A. and see if there's anything here that potentially could help you as you think about how to do this within your organization, or if you're on the line here as a student thinking about moving into this, maybe there's something you can take with you when you begin working in the field. But what we like to do is ask our members to start thinking about first, really looking at their company and looking at it from a company-wide perspective. So when you think about all the development that you need to do within your organization, what are those things that you want to be doing for everybody within the company? And often you're going to start with your onboarding, because that hits everybody, at least all new people coming in. So what is it that you want to provide all new employees from a development standpoint? And then it's kind of the people and culture type of development, right? How do you want to develop the individuals within your organization and the culture? And training and development goes a long way to establishing and maintaining your culture. Culture is not something that you can set and forget. It is something that needs to be maintained.
You want to meet me now?
Please mute your microphone.
Okay.
Please mute your microphone.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Or your telephone. Please mute whoever that was, please mute your microphone or telephone. Thank you.
So when we talk about people and culture, when you think about culture and how you develop culture, think about some of those programs we just talked about, right? Those personal development programs. What would that do for your culture if you did offer courses or training or support in areas of time management, stress management, mindfulness, good communication skills, civility and inclusion, right? Offering formal training programs, offering content that's curated that comes from all different various sources that you make available to your employees that allow them to develop in these areas can have an awesome impact on your culture. Then there's the whole compliance and HR piece, right? Again, those things that you want to be consistent throughout the organization, your policies, your anti-harassment policies, right? We're doing a lot of that training right now. So that's a great place to start looking globally. In my organization, I want everyone at the beginning to get this type of training, to maintain my culture. I want to do this type of development, and to maintain consistency around our policies, our procedures, the way we do things, we want to offer this type of development. And then you move down into the targeted areas, and you start looking at those job specific, the roles. One big bucket, of course, is obviously leadership development. How do we develop our current leaders? How do we develop our future leaders? What does that look like? What do we need to be doing to develop them? And then the other types of specific roles, right? Sales needs something different than engineering and customer service and whatever the different departments might be in your organization. But then you can start looking at those individual buckets and saying, all right, who's in these departments now, currently? What's the makeup of these departments? What are the goals for these departments and for the company? And then where do we need our people to be able to support those goals? So therefore, what's the development we need to be doing? And then there's the very job-specific training, the Excel training, the Microsoft training, that type of stuff that you need to be doing as well. So we have found this to be really very helpful when we have conversations with our different members around how do we get started. Because most of our members are in the same place that most of you are here on this call. They know they want to be doing talent development. They know all the benefits for it. How do we get started, especially when we don't have a whole lot of resources? So this is one framework that we have found that really at least helps to start the conversation. And then, you know, when you think about pulling together a whole development program, and some of you who have already done this probably, you know, this is going to sound very familiar, but for us, we like to get in there and work with our members around really assessing where are you currently with what you're doing, and where do you want to be? What is your vision? And if you don't have a vision, let's first create a vision for your development program, because you don't want to start it without having that type of vision. You really do want to have the end in mind when you get started with something like this. And then think about, you know, the scope and the need. So what is it that you're going to involve in this? Are you going to look to do classroom training, virtual training, e-learning training? Are you going to bring in content from sources like Degreed and TED Talks? Are you going to create your own content? You know, what's the scope of this really going to look like? And then you can look at what products, services, and platforms you're going to need. If you don't have any, you're going to do virtual learning. Do you have a Zoom? Do you have a GoToTraining? Do you have a WebEx? If you're going to create your own e-learning, do you have the tools that you need to do that? Do you have the manpower that can do that? And then it's really, you know, rolling it out there and monitoring and promoting your progress. And I put promote progress because I think that's a really big deal. So you're going to go through all of this trouble of creating a development program for your employees. You need to be able to make your employees aware of what you're doing. They need to see that they're being developed. And one course a year is not necessarily going to feel like development for them, certainly if you don't somehow always promote it with them. Again, we said employees want to be developed or they're going to leave. If they don't see it, if you're not promoting it, marketing it, making it known to them through a learning management system, through their one-on-ones with their managers, or there's a recap or a summary, something. You basically want to get credit for what you're doing.
Someone who just chimed in with us, please mute your microphone because we can hear you typing during the presentation. So please mute your microphone or your phone. Thank you.
So thanks, Lynette, for that. I'm going to stop there and just say, I know, and we're almost at time anyway. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free if you want to give me a green check and I can call on you. You can go off mute and verbally share your questions, or you can go ahead and put them in chat. Grace, did you have a question? Or is your green check there from before?
I think it was there from the millennial question.
The millennial, okay. Let me just clear that then.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box area or unmute your microphones and ask the question out loud. But to keep in time and so that everybody has an opportunity to speak, check your check box if you have a question. That way the speaker can call upon you and then you can proceed.
Well,
so since I do have a question. I do have a question, so
okay.
I'll start it on. So talent development is oftentimes viewed as an expense rather than an investment. So how do you get buy-in from leadership to understand the importance of developing talent?
So I think it's about finding those statistics that really are out there now about increased turnover, the cost of turnover within an organization, the cost to recruit and retain in a company, the lack of skilled workers out there. So all of that just makes it so much more important that we just keep the people we have, that we develop the people we have, and we maintain the people that we have.
So basically finding the data to support. Right.
Exactly.
Which makes sense. Finding the data to support the why.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Then let me just share something here real quick. We are doing a talent conference on September 20th. We're doing it at the Sheridan Valley Forge Hotel. It's going to be a really great conference this year with several different speakers. I provided the website there for you if you want to just go on to meainfo.org/conference to get more information. Feel free. If you email me, and on the next slide, I also have my email address again, as it is here on the slide, at muhrich@meainfo.org. If you're interested in attending, the early bird price of $200, I am happy to extend to you regardless of when you register. So I think the early bird discount ends shortly, but I'm happy to just extend that discount for anybody that has attended this webinar. The programs put on by M.E.A. have been, in my experience so far, really very helpful. We have people that come back every year to our law conference and then our talent conference. So like I said, it's September 20th, and the early bird discount price of $200 is being offered to you then just for the life of or until the day of the registration. So if you're or the day of the event. So feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in that, and I'll just give you a coupon code that you can use to make sure that you get that pricing. And then with that, I'll just say it's been a pleasure. Thank you for the participation. That was awesome. Hopefully you enjoyed your time here today. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or just want to discuss this further. I love geeking out over this topic, and hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and the upcoming weekend that is just a day and a half away.
So thank you so much, Margaret, for this information. I also like the idea of the stretch assignments. I wanted to mention that as well. And I like that you pointed out that not everyone who's a top performer should only be given those stretch assignments, that it should also be given to those who are not considered as high performers, because it helps to develop them as well. So most oftentimes, we give a lot of the assignments to the top performers when we already know that they're capable of handling the assignment. So it's not that much of a stretch for them. So to give it to those employees who might need a little extra stretch to help hone in on their skills and abilities is an excellent idea. Oftentimes when we put too much on the top performers is why we get burnout and then we lose them. So I do like that you mentioned the importance of involving those who are not always the top performers. So thank you all for your interest in our professional development webinars at LaSalle. Thank you again to our guest speaker for such a great webinar, providing you with so much information today that hopefully you can apply in your current or future workplace. So I will email you the instructions on obtaining the 1.5 HRCI recertification credits based on the email that you provided when you registered. Some of you logged in with a telephone number instead of your name, so it will be difficult for me to determine who you are unless you inputted that information into the system that you registered for. So by the end of today is when I will email you the information to obtain those 1.5 certification hours. Also, I will email you a brief survey in addition to that, just to get your feedback on your experience in today's webinar. So if you are interested in learning more about talent development, again, you can contact Margaret. You also can contact me if you're interested in learning more about the Masters of Science in Human Capital Development or the Bachelors of Arts in Organizational Leadership at LaSalle. I'm tongue-tied today. Or contact our admissions office at 215-951-1100. So some people are asking, is the conference SHRM certified? It is not. It is HR, Human Resources Recertification Institute is what gave us the credits for this webinar today, is the organization. So they're HRCI credits. And again, KJet said, how do we get the certificate? I will email it to you by the end of today. So thank you again, Margaret, and thank you all for your interest in our free online professional development webinar. So join us for future webinars, and you can register for them through our Human Capital Development website on LaSalle University's platform. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.